In the heart of Red Clay Village, where the roads are dusty and the sun kisses the earth with fire, there stood an old baobab tree, tall, wide, and wise like time itself. Beneath that tree was a small clay hut, built with care, its walls smooth like river stones. And inside that hut lived a woman, a very special woman. Her name was Mama Ejime. She was 78 years old, her back slightly bent, her skin soft and wrinkled like the folds of an old wrapper. But when you looked into her eyes, you would see something strong, something bright. A fire, a light, a knowing that only time could give. Mama Ejime wasn't just an old woman. She was the heart of the village, the one people ran to when they didn't know what to do. When a child had nightmares, they brought him to Mama Ejime. When a marriage was shaking like a mango tree in the wind, the couple sat under her baobab and listened to her words. And when there was no food in the house, she would whisper a prayer and somehow, hope would return. People said the baobab listened to her. Others said she could hear the ancestors. But Mama Ejime would just smile and say, "Wisdom is not mine. It flows through me like river water." But not everyone listened. Some of the young people, especially the boys who wore jeans too tight and carried phones too big, would laugh behind her back. "She's too old," they would say, "always speaking in riddles. She's stuck in the past," some girls would whisper. "This is 21st century, a beg." Mama Ejime heard it all, but she didn't mind. She knew that truth is like rain. It always finds its way, no matter how dry the land. Then, one morning, just as the rooster crowed and the sky was still stretching its light, Mama Ejime stepped outside her hut. She looked up at the sky. The wind was quiet, too quiet. The birds were not singing. Even the baobab seemed still, like it was holding its breath. She closed her eyes, her hand resting on her walking stick. The air felt heavy, like something unseen was walking through the village, touching doors and waking old bones. And then, in a voice soft but full of power, she whispered, "Something is coming." And just like that, the wind picked up again. But the old woman stood still, listening, waiting. It was a hot and noisy afternoon in Red Clay Village. The market was full, women calling out prices, children chasing goats, men drinking palm wine in the corner. The smell of roasted corn mixed with fresh pepper, and laughter danced in the air. But all that changed in one moment. A loud shout cut through the noise. Then another, and another. Two men were standing face to face in the middle of the market square, Mr. Okoye and Mr. Mbesa. Their eyes were red with anger, their voices like thunder. "That land has been in my family for 50 years. Okoye shouted. "Lies! Your grandfather gave it to my father." Mbesa fired back. Soon, their wives joined, yelling insults. Their sons ran in with sticks. Someone brought out a machete. People screamed. Tomatoes rolled on the ground. A baby cried loudly as her mother grabbed her and ran. The peaceful market became a battlefield. The village chief arrived, sweating and confused. He tried to speak, tried to shout over the noise, but no one listened. People were scared. The quarrel was not just a fight, it was splitting the whole village into two. Then, tap, tap, tap. A slow, steady sound echoed across the square. Everyone turned. It was Mama Ejime, walking with her wooden staff, her bare feet brushing the dust. She didn't speak. She just walked into the middle of the fight, right between Okoye and Mbesa. She raised her staff and tapped it once on the ground. Tap. And just like that, silence. Even the goats stopped moving. Her voice was calm, but strong. I will not ask who is right. I will not ask who is wrong. I will ask only one thing. She turned to Mr. Okoye and said, "What did your father teach you about land?" Okoye, confused but still breathing hard, said, "He said land is a gift. It feeds us, but it does not belong to us forever." She turned to Mr. Mbesa. "And what did your father teach you?" Mbesa's voice was low now. "He said we are only caretakers. The land belongs to those yet unborn." Mama Ejime closed her eyes and said, "So why are the sons of two wise men holding weapons against each other, over something that belongs to your children's children?" No one spoke. People looked down. The wind moved again. One by one, the men lowered their machetes. The wives covered their faces in shame. The chief nodded slowly. The market returned to peace. For that day, and a few days more, Red Clay Village breathed easy again. But Mama Ejime knew this was only the beginning. The rains had come. The sun had shone. But still, the yams were dying. All across Red Clay Village, the leaves of the yam plants turned yellow. The stems bent. The roots rotted in the ground like old rags. Farmers cried. Mothers worried. Empty baskets sat in homes where laughter used to live. Then one whisper started. Just one. "It's Adaora." Adaora, the quiet widow who lived alone near the edge of the village. Her husband had died in an accident. Her children had moved far away. She didn't talk much. She kept to herself. She had no friends, and that was enough. She must be a witch, some said. Her eyes are too quiet. Since she came back from her husband's funeral, nothing has gone right. Fear spread like wildfire. Children were told, "Don't go near her hut." Women crossed the road when they saw her coming. Even men, strong men, whispered behind closed doors. Adaora said nothing, but her eyes, oh, her eyes, looked heavy like storm clouds. Then, one evening, as the village sat in fear and the fields lay empty, Mama Ejime appeared at Adaora's door. She didn't knock. She just walked in. Adaora stood still, surprised. "Why are you here, Mama?" she asked, her voice shaking. Mama Ejime didn't answer. She looked around the hut. She looked at Adaora's hands. Then she asked, "Where is your farm?" Together, they walked to the back of the house. Mama Ejime bent down, took some soil in her palm, and smelled it. Then she touched the dying yam vines. She closed her eyes. The wind blew softly. She stood up and said, "The soil is crying, not Adaora. You are blind with fear." The next morning, she gathered herbs. She tied red and white cloth around her head. She walked to the sacred stream and filled her calabash with water. She returned to Adaora's farm and poured the water on the soil. She whispered chants, soft and slow. She placed herbs at each corner of the farm and lit a small fire in the center. People came from all over to watch. Some laughed. Some shook their heads. But no one stopped her. Then, 1 week later, small green leaves began to rise. The vines uncurled. The yams pushed themselves up like they had found new life. One by one, the farms across the village healed too. The people were shocked. Adaora was no longer called witch. Children waved at her. Women brought her firewood. The men nodded when they passed her home. But Mama Ejime, she just smiled and said, "Fear makes enemies, but wisdom brings light." And with that, she walked back to her baobab, where the wind always listened. One bright morning, a car rolled into Red Clay Village. Not just any car, a shining black Jeep with glass that reflected the sun like a mirror. It parked right in the center of the square. The engine went quiet, and then the door opened. A man stepped out, tall, handsome, skin smooth like ripe mango. His shoes shone. His shirt was crisp. He wore dark glasses and spoke like someone who had walked through many cities. He called himself Mr. Kelvin. He said he was a developer sent to help the village grow. He spoke of building a modern school with computers and whiteboards, a clean clinic with real nurses and medicine. He talked of roads, lights, and jobs. No child should walk miles to learn, he said. No mother should suffer in childbirth, he added. People clapped. The youth jumped up and cheered. The women ululated. Even the village chief, whose eyes rarely lit up, smiled and nodded. Then Mr. Kelvin said, "All I need is your trust and your land. You won't even pay now. I'll give you loans with easy terms." Papers were brought out, big ones, with words too long to understand. But the people were excited. A new future was arriving, fast, sweet, and shiny. Only one person was not clapping. Mama Ejime. She stood under the baobab tree and said gently, "Not all gifts come from the gods. Some are wrapped in gold, but filled with thorns." The chief laughed. The young men hissed, "Mama Ejime, please rest. The world is changing. Allow progress to enter." The contract was signed. There was dancing. Palm wine flowed. A goat was killed in celebration. But then months passed. The school never rose. The clinic remained a drawing on paper. Instead, people in the village started receiving letters. Land seizure notices. Fields where yams once grew were fenced off. Men with hard hats came and started digging. No one knew what was happening. The easy loans came with demands, interests, and court threats. Fear returned, and Mr. Kelvin, gone. Phone, switched off. Car, disappeared. Money, nowhere. The village fell into shock. People wept. The chief locked himself in his compound. Then Mama Ejime walked once more to the square. She looked at the place where Mr. Kelvin had stood, and she said, "When a snake wears a suit, do not forget it still bites." The people listened now. Their hearts were heavy. Their eyes opened. Too late. But Mama Ejime was already thinking, already planning, because the work of healing was not yet done. It began with a mother's scream. "Nena! Nena! Where is my son?" The sun had started to set over Red Clay Village, painting the sky in orange and gold. The air was quiet until the panic came. The boy, Nena, only 7 years old, was nowhere to be found. He had gone to fetch firewood with his cousins. They returned. He didn't. At first, the villagers spread out, calling his name through the dusty paths. "Nena! Nana!" But there was no answer, only the sound of birds flying home. only the wind brushing the trees. Then night fell. Darkness poured over the village like a heavy blanket. The forest beyond the farms became a mouth of blackness. No one wanted to go in. The elders warned, "The bush at night is full of spirits. Snakes move freely after dusk. We must wait till morning." But a mother's tears kept flowing. Her hands shook. Her knees gave way. Then came Mama Ejime. She appeared at the edge of the village, holding a wooden lantern. The flame inside was small but steady. In her other hand, she held a pouch of herbs. Around her neck, a red thread. Her eyes burned with purpose. "A child is missing," she said. "So the forest must open." The men warned her, the chief begged her. But Mama Ejime did not stop. She stepped into the dark bush alone. The villagers watched her small flame disappear between the trees. Inside the forest, shadows danced. Strange sounds filled the air: crickets, owls, the hiss of grass moving. But Mama Ejime was not afraid. She walked with purpose. She whispered chants under her breath. She crushed leaves between her fingers and smelled the air. Then she heard it, a faint sob, a rustle. Near the riverbank, just before the thickest trees, she found him. Nena. He lay still, one arm across his chest, eyes half closed. His leg was swollen, a snake bite. Mama Ejime fell to her knees. She tore her wrapper, tied it above the bite. She bent low and sucked the poison with her mouth, spitting it into the dust. She chewed a bitter leaf, placed it on the wound, and sang an old healing song. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she worked. "You must not go, my child. The world still needs your laughter." Then she carried him, on her back, through the forest, step by step, breath by breath. When she reached the edge of the village, someone saw her and shouted, "They're back!" People ran out with lanterns. The boy's mother screamed and collapsed in joy. The chief dropped his staff and wept. They laid Nena down, and he opened his eyes slowly. "Mama, Mama Ejime," he whispered. The crowd fell silent. That night, as the boy slept, something strange happened. Fireflies, hundreds of them, glowing gold like stars, gathered around Mama Ejime's hut. They hovered in silence, lighting up the dark like a prayer in motion. And one by one, the villagers came and knelt, old, young, rich, poor. No one spoke, only tears. Tears of thanks, tears of awe, tears for the woman who had no fear, only love. And Mama Ejime? She just sat at her doorway, whispering. A village is not rich by money, but by the life of every child it keeps safe. Time passed. The seasons danced by like music on the wind. Crops grew and were harvested. Children who once ran barefoot now carried babies of their own. And Mama Ejime, the wise woman, the healer, the keeper of peace, grew older. Her steps slowed. Her voice softened. Her hands, once firm and quick with herbs, now trembled slightly. She still sat beneath the old baobab tree each morning, but now on a mat, with her walking stick beside her. One morning, the sky was gray and quiet, like it knew something important was about to happen. Mama Ejime sent for the villagers. Old and young came. Farmers, mothers, warriors, even children with dust on their legs. They all sat beneath the giant tree that had heard every story. That day, it would hear one more. Mama Ejime stood slowly. A hush fell over the crowd. She looked around with eyes that had seen joy, war, birth, and betrayal, and still burned with light. Then, in a voice that was soft but strong, she said, "My bones are old now. I do not walk like I used to, but my spirit has one last story to give." She paused, looking at the faces before her. "I was never your healer. Not truly. I was only a mirror, reminding you of what already lived inside you." People began to weep quietly. Wisdom is not magic. It is not loud. It lives in quiet hearts, in careful hands, in those who choose truth even when it is hard. Then, she turned to a girl sitting in the front row, Chiamaka. A girl no older than 16. Brave eyes, quiet spirit, hands that helped the sick without being told. Mama Ejime placed a small pouch in Chiamaka's hand. "You will learn the herbs, the chants, the listening, but more than that, you will learn the people. That is what makes a true healer." Chiamaka's lips trembled. She nodded. The fireflies from many nights ago seemed to return in the wind, though the sun still hung in the sky. And Mama Ejime, with a tired smile, spoke her last words to the people of Red Clay Village. "Wisdom is not loud, but it echoes forever." She sat back down beneath the baobab, leaned against its bark, and closed her eyes, peaceful, still. The wind carried her words across the fields, into every hut, into every heart. And the village was never the same again. It was a quiet morning in Red Clay Village. The sun was just rising, gently lighting the red earth with gold. Birds sang softly, and smoke curled from cooking fires. Everything seemed normal, until someone went to Mama Ejime's hut. The door was open, but she was not there. No bed was disturbed. No footprints in the dust. Just two things. Her wooden staff, leaning against the old baobab tree, and her blue wrapper, folded neatly on the ground, still warm, as if she had just stepped out of it. A chill passed through the village. Word spread fast. Children stopped playing. Farmers dropped their hoes. Women ran to the square. The chief came, looking confused and bareheaded. They searched the whole village, then the bush, then the riverside. No sign, no goodbye, no sound, just silence. Some said, "She became a bird and flew to the sky." Others whispered, "She melted into the wind like a whisper too soft to catch." The children said something different. If you stand under the baobab tree and listen closely, you can still hear her voice. And they were right. On some nights, when the moon is round and the air is still, if you close your eyes beneath the tree, you might hear. Peace is planted like yam, deep, quiet, and full of life. Truth walks slowly, but it always arrives. The villagers built a small shrine near the baobab. They placed her staff inside it, and fresh flowers were laid there every market day. People would come not to cry, but to remember, to feel close to the woman who had once carried their burdens without asking for anything in return. And in a small corner of the village, in a clay hut much like Mama Ejime's, a young girl lit her own fire. Chiamaka. She began to listen, to learn, to walk in quietness, not to replace Mama Ejime, but to carry forward the wisdom like a song passed from drum to drum. And so, though Mama Ejime was gone, she was not gone. She had become the wind. And in Red Clay Village, every child grew up knowing, when you don't know what to do, Stand beneath the baobab tree and wait. She will find you. And so the days turned into years. Red Clay Village still stands. It is not rich in gold or tall buildings or shiny machines, but it is rich in something far deeper, wisdom. Children still run barefoot across the fields. Mothers still hum old songs as they pound yam. And at the heart of it all stands the baobab tree. Now, when villagers face trouble, when tempers rise, when fear knocks, or when decisions must be made, they say, "Go. Sit beneath the baobab. Ask it before you act." They remember the woman who once walked with a quiet step, but left footsteps in every soul. They remember her not with tears, but with strength. Not as a ghost, but as a guide. For her spirit still lives. In the stories shared by elders. In the courage of young Chiamaka. And in the wind that rustles through the leaves of the sacred tree. And as the narrator of this tale, I leave you with the words they say in Red Clay Village, even now. The one who listens to the old drum will not dance into ruin. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. Turn on your notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.